Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today as we get together and talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, whole bunch of crazy things going on, guys. We got Zombieland 2 is finally coming. The next chapter in the drama between The Rock and Tyrese. But more than that, how will this affect Fast and the Furious 9? That's a big issue coming up here as well. We're going to talk some box office. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. So let's get things started right off the top with this. So we're going to talk about the box office. And it was an interesting weekend at the box office. Let's take a look at the results from this weekend. Coming in number one, not a big surprise, was Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation. The movie took in $44.1 million, which I got to say is a little bit more than I thought it was going to make as well. Coming in the number two spot is Ant-Man and the Wasp with another $28.8 million. We're going to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp here a little bit more in a second. Skyscraper comes in a little bit under its projection. They were saying it could come in as high as 35, comes in at $25.4 million. Incredibles 2 brings in another $16.2 million. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom over $1.1 billion worldwide now as it takes in another $15.5 million. But the interesting thing I want to talk about here is Ant-Man and the Wasp, making another $28.8 million. But it took a 62% drop. I found that surprising, because it's a very good movie that got very good audience scores. It got very good critic scores. It did really solid, like beat the opening weekend of the original Ant-Man. Nothing huge opened up this week. Like, yes, Hotel Transylvania 3 with $44 million. Okay, that's something, but it's not like a $100 million movie opened this week to eat up a lot more of the box office. So I gotta say, I really like Ant-Man and the Wasp. The audience clearly likes it. The critics like it. It did well opening week. A 62% drop, I gotta say, is a little bit surprising to me. So unless it's a situation where, you know what, Incredibles 2 is still out there and doing good business, and maybe a lot of families, a lot of people after seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp on week one, they decide, you know what, I'm gonna, instead of going to see it again or bring in friends to go see it, I want to take them to go see Incredibles 2. Or you know, Hotel Transylvania 3, whatever. I just find it a little bit surprising that it took that much of a drop with nothing massive opening up against it at the same time, and the fact that it had positive scores across the board. So yeah, I gotta say that second weekend drop has got to be considered a disappointment for Disney. I mean, it's still good. It's approaching 300 million worldwide already. The film's doing fine, but I gotta say that I think that, you know, 280, that 62% drop, the studio's got to be looking at that and going, huh. And they've got to be disappointed with it. Now, let's see what kind of legs it has after this weekend. Maybe it'll take like just a 35% drop next weekend or something like that. We'll have to wait and see, and then we'll know for sure. All right, now before we get into our main topics today, guys, it's time for us to talk about Friday's question of the day and look at the results of the question of the day. Now, the question of the day on Friday was simply this: should they make a Black Widow movie? Now, I personally think no. But once again, you guys have completely said, screw you, Campea, and you've gone the other way, because here's the results. Well over 1,000 respondents came in, and overwhelmingly, the winner of the survey was yes, they should make a Black Widow movie. 57.61% of you guys said yes, they should make a Black Widow movie. Only 35.2%, of one of which I was one, said no, they should not make a Black Widow movie. And 7.1% of you guys said, yes, someday make a Black Widow movie, just maybe now's not the time. So, once again, the clear winner from Friday's question of the day was yes, they should make a Black Widow movie, so you guys have spoken. Now, we've got another question of the day today that also involves Scarlett Johansson, but we'll get to that one in just a little bit. For now, let's get on to our main topics of the day. And our main topics of the day are, of course, submitted by you guys. How do you guys submit a topic or a question to be one of our main topics of the day? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. With that out of the way, let's get to the first question of the day. And the first question today comes to us from Diego Martinez, who writes, "Hey, Mr. Campea, I was wondering if you heard the recent comments by Dwayne Johnson about his big beef with Tyrese Gibson. Looks like the two of them still haven't talked, and Johnson says he has no plans to talk to Tyrese. So, my question is, does this pretty much kill any idea of both of them being in Fast 9 now? Is Johnson and Statham's movies going to be their own series now? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, so as many of you probably recall, Tyrese Gibson inexplicably decided to launch public tirades against Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson because, hey, the studio decided, we think a Hobbs and Shaw movie would be good. And we think people will go to see it. We think people liked Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson together on screen. Let's do a spin-off film of Hobbs and Shaw. That meant pushing Fast and Furious 9 back one more year. Well, Tyrese Gibson, who I guess doesn't get work anymore, and maybe this is the only thing he gets to work on anymore. I mean, I don't know that. I'm just saying, but he got really upset about that, and he personally blamed Dwayne Johnson for the studio's decision to push back Fast 9 one year while they do a Hobbs and Shaw movie. And, I'm not going to go into all the details, but I mean, you guys can read them for yourself. They're all online. Tyrese just went off on Dwayne Johnson for this. And it got pretty heated to the point that Tyrese even said, I ain't going to do Fast and Furious 9 if you guys put Dwayne Johnson on it. It's like, dude, you're picking a fight you can't win. But at any rate. So that's the whole thing. Well, now Dwayne Johnson was being interviewed while he was promoting Skyscraper, his new film. And somebody asked him directly, what's the status of him and Tyrese Gibson? This is what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had to say. He said this: that whole thing with Tyrese, it was pretty disappointing because I had been friends with Tyrese for a very long time. I always feel like a beef requires two people to actually jump in it, and it was pretty one-sided, and he had voiced his opinion a lot on social media. Apparently he was going through some stuff too in his personal life. But here's the key part, guys. No, we haven't talked, and I don't see where we would. And to me, there's no reason to have a conversation. Let me read that last part again. No, we haven't talked, and I don't see where we would. And to me, there's no need to have a conversation. So this is what it looks like to me on the surface. Now, I have not been on the phone with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He hasn't been texting me to give me all the inside stuff. But to me, it looks like Tyrese has permanently burned a bridge. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like Tyrese has permanently burned a bridge. And to the point that, if The Rock is saying, no, we haven't spoken, that's one thing. To go on to say, I don't see us ever having a need to speak. I don't see the need for a conversation. I don't see why we would speak. To me, the ramifications of that go beyond just celebrity gossip, because I don't care about, who's beefing with who. But when it practically impacts the movies getting made, that's when it becomes news. And when you're talking about a franchise that is as big and successful as the Fast and Furious franchise, apparently Tyrese is still attached to being in these movies. And Dwayne Johnson's now saying, I have not spoken to that guy, and I have no plans to speak to that guy. How can they possibly in the same movie together? Compiled on top of that is the fact that Dwayne Johnson has been very public recently about the falling out between him and Vin Diesel. Look, nobody has said anything official. Let's be clear about that. Nobody has said anything official. But to me, compounding the issues of Dwayne Johnson's fallout with Vin Diesel, compounding with that, Tyrese saying he wouldn't be in a Fast 9 if The Rock was in it, and now The Rock saying that he and Tyrese have never spoken about it, and he has no plans to speak to him. To me, that pretty clearly points to a really drastic, consequence for the movies themselves. I don't think Dwayne Johnson's going to be in Fast and Furious 9. I honestly think that's how I am interpreting it. Again, let's be clear. Nobody is officially saying that. I could be way off on this. But it seems like it's pretty definitive. Dwayne Johnson's not going to be in Fast and the Furious 9. And part of the reason they may be doing this Hobbs and spinoff thing is Vin and Tyrese and Dwayne Johnson can't work together anymore. But Dwayne Johnson has been box office Viagra for this franchise. We got to keep him in it. So let's start these spin-off movies and do that. And maybe this Hobbs and Shaw thing becomes a series of its own. Maybe this Hobbs and Shaw thing is not going to be a one-off, it's just a one spin-off thing. It might become its own series. That's in the same cinematic universe with Fast 9, but it could be that. But anyway, it just seems like there are some pretty drastic ramifications for the film franchise itself, because now Fast and the Furious, if I'm right, and I could be way wrong on this, but if I'm right and Dwayne is out of Fast 9, then that now means that the Fast and Furious franchise is out Paul Walker for obvious tragic reasons, and now is out Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's not good. I mean, it's not a good situation. Let's wait and see how this whole thing transpires. All right, let's move on to the next email. And the next email today comes to us from Morgan Alvarez, who writes, "Greetings from Cleveland." I like Cleveland. "You may have taken LeBron, but we still love you here." Of course, you guys know LeBron James is now in Los Angeles. "Last week, you talked about Scarlett Johansson playing a transgender character in that movie, Rub And Tug. Did you hear that she left the role and her comments about why? Do you think this was the right move for her? Do you think the movie is still going to happen?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. So, yeah, for those of you who were around last week, you'll remember that we talked about this issue. Scarlett Johansson and her production company were making this movie called Rub And Tug about this gangster from the 1970s who was born a woman, then identified as a man, and like ran a brothel and kind of did the runaround around the mob. And I think it was set in Pittsburgh. I can't remember. Did a runaround around the mob, all this kind of stuff. It sounded interesting. And Scarlett Johansson, like an apex, one of the very, very few apex level actresses in the business today, both in star power and in acting ability, was going to lead the film. And she was going to play the lead character. Now, this started a controversy that some people started voicing concerns that she, not being a transgender person, shouldn't play the role. Now, my argument at the time was that, hey, actors play things and people that they are not, whether they're playing aliens, whether they're playing, somebody of a different, whatever. Actors play people that they are not. And I thought it was a good move for Scarlett Johansson to be in this role. I thought it was going to bring a lot of attention to the project, which I thought was a good thing for everybody involved, all that kind of stuff. But there were people with concerns as well, some legitimate concerns as well. So at any rate, the next chapter in this whole controversy is now that Scarlett Johansson has been pressured to step out of the project. And she put out a statement, a very, very well drafted statement that I'm pretty sure her PR people probably wrote for her because it's very diplomatically written. But basically saying, hey, I cherish the fact that this started a conversation. I've heard people saying this, so I want to respect that. I'm going to step out of it. Me and my production company look forward in the future to making projects that are about, representation and inclusivity and all that kind of stuff. It was a good statement. Here's the interesting thing. She never said in her statement that they were still going to make this movie. Now, that doesn't mean they're not. Let's be clear about that. That does not necessarily mean they are not still going to make this movie. I just found it interesting that there was nowhere in her statements that said we're still going to make this movie. And here's what I have to wonder. Okay? Here's what I have to wonder. There are some people out there, and understandably so, again, I see both sides to this. I do. I happen to fall on one side, but I totally see and respect the other argument as well, and my mind might even change on this, to be frank with you. But let me just express kind of where my point of view is in this, because I have nothing to offer you guys, if not just my honest opinion, be it right or wrong, okay? All I've got is my opinion. Let me share it with you. I think in this whole, there is an effort in certain segments, particularly in Hollywood, to increase awareness of transgender issues and to increase awareness. Because look, I'm a pasty, straight, boring white dude. I mean, I know crap about the real issues, okay? Let's just be clear about that. I know crap. But I know there has been an effort in circles and in Hollywood in particular to try to increase awareness of transgender issues for clueless people like me, to try to increase awareness and inclusivity, to increase the idea of representation and equality and things, and that's all good stuff. It's all needed stuff. It's great stuff. Here's my concern. My concern is while there are some people celebrating Scarlett Johansson's decision to step down from this film, I cannot help but wonder if we have just saved a nickel at the expense of $10. I can't help but wonder, and again, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm open to have my mind change. I'm just saying. Right now I feel like, yay, we just saved a dime, and it only cost us $10 to save a dime. That's what I feel. I feel like the effort has just been set back. I feel like now, instead of having a movie with like one of the apex actresses in the business leading the way, that would hopefully bring more attention to these issues. And remember, to a lot of Americans, I believe to a lot of Americans, this is not a political issue. This is a human issue. It's not politics. This is a human issue. I believe to a lot of Americans, the issues of transgender issues are a theoretical thing, because I think most Americans don't know anybody. They don't have anybody in their circles that is a part of this issue. They don't know anybody that is a part of this issue. So to a lot of Americans, this whole thing about transgender stuff is just theoretical. And I think a movie like this would have been another step forward, particularly with somebody like Scarlett Johansson, a huge advocate, starring in the film, would have been a significant step forward in increasing the conversation, taking it from a theoretical issue to a tangible issue, and taking it from a theoretical issue to a human issue, and humanize the issue for a lot of people, make it tangible for people. But she was bullied, and she's been pushed out of the role. Make no mistake, her statement was very well, she was very eloquent in her statement, but make no mistake, she's been bullied out of the role. She's been pushed out. And now, I have my doubts that this movie's even going to get made. I have my doubts that this movie's even going to get made. And if this movie does not get made now, I have to ask the question, has the effort to increase awareness and equality, has this just gone forward, or has it been pushed back if this movie now doesn't get made? Here's an interesting thing. Let me point that. Here's the reality of the situation, okay? There have been a couple of significant movies that have been made surrounding transgender issues, and none of them have done particularly well at the box office, right? So we look at something like The Danish Girl with Eddie Redmayne. Eddie Redmayne coming off an Academy Award win, all right? He won an Academy Award, then does this movie called The Danish Girl. In America, in the domestic box office, it made $11 million. The Dallas Buyers Club, which had Jared Leto winning an Academy Award, and the movie was led by Matthew McConaughey right at the apex of the McConaissance, because just 1 month, just a few weeks after the Dallas Buyers Club, he had Wolf of Wall Street coming out. This was the cusp of the McConaissance, made $27 million. Transamerica with Felicity Huffman got Felicity Huffman an Academy Award nomination, made $9 million. And here's the thing, that Danish Girl, you may look at that $11 million and say, well, having Eddie Redmayne in it didn't help the movie. Bull. How much money do you think that movie would have made if it wasn't Eddie Redmayne in the lead role? If it wasn't the current reigning Best Actor Academy Award winner in the lead role? It would have made less than $11 million. How much do you think Dallas Buyers Club would have made without the star power it had? It would have made less than $27 million. And here's my concern. This is why I'm bringing up box office numbers, because you might be wondering, John, what's the point of these box office numbers? Here's my point. There's not a lot of financial incentive, and this is a business. There's not a lot of financial incentive to make movies on transgender issues right now, because right now the American movie-going audience doesn't seem all that interested in seeing it. This is not a should or shouldn't issue. This is an is and isn't issue. And should and shouldn't is a totally separate issue that we should have some discussions about. But this is an is and isn't issue. Right now, box office numbers confirm that the American movie-going audience isn't all that interested right now in going out and supporting transgender-themed movies. They're just not. I mean, that's not me making it up. The numbers prove it. Now, should the American audience be more into those stories? That's a different issue. But right now we're talking about is and isn't, right? And my question is this. When you have a movie-going audience that is clearly not all that interested right now in seeing transgender-themed movies, like hell, when you have the reigning Academy Award winner in The Danish Girl and it only makes $11 million bucks, what is that telling us? What does that say? So when you have a movie-going audience that right now doesn't seem all that interested in going to see transgender movies, again, not a should and shouldn't issue, it's an is and isn't, and should and shouldn't is a worthy conversation to have for another time. But they're not right now. So you come up with a movie project, you get somebody with vision and guts and whatever, like Scarlett Johansson and her production company, say, we want to tell this story. And we think if we have an apex movie star like Scarlett Johansson in the lead, maybe we can start slowly to change the tide of getting the American movie-going audience's attention for a movie like this, and maybe they'll come out. But I'm going to tell you this, without a Scarlett Johansson, it's not going to change anything. See, and that's my concern. I might be right, I might be wrong, but that's my concern. My concern is you got an American movie-going audience that is not interested, clearly proven by the numbers, to see transgender themes and stories in movies. So you want to make a movie that does that and tangibilizes the whole issue and humanizes the issue for people. And we get a performer like a Scarlett Johansson to lead it that will get some more people. It doesn't mean the movie's going to make $50 million, not by any stretch of the imagination, but it means it will get some people's attention that otherwise wouldn't have paid attention to it, and now we've bullied her out of the role. Yay! We pushed her out of the role, and we just set everything back. To me, as somebody who issues of equality, opportunity, and all that kind of stuff are important, to me, it seems like you need to do things that increase awareness and bring more positive attention to issues like this. And I think by people bullying Scarlett Johansson out of this role, I think you've actually just been counterproductive and set that whole issue backwards. Because I'm going to tell you what, right now, even if they make this movie, and I don't think they're going to make this movie anymore. I think a year from now, no one's just going to be talking about it. I don't think they're going to make this movie anymore. Hopefully they do. But I'm going to tell you this right now, and I guarantee this 100%, that if they do go ahead and make this movie now, with transgender issues clearly at the heart of this movie, in a country where people don't care about going to movies with transgender issues, and you don't, instead of putting in a Scarlett Johansson, you put in an unknown performer, less people are going to pay attention to this movie now. It's going to make less at the box office, which means less studios are going to be likely to want to do more movies like this. The way you get studios making more movies like this is to show them that they can be financially viable. She represented the best chance of making this project financially viable, and she represented this project's best chance of getting made. And again, I just kind of feel like, and again, let me say, I could be wrong about that. I could be dead wrong about this. But I feel like this whole turn of events has now set the whole effort backwards. You just hurt. You know, yay, we saved a dime and it only cost us $20 to do it. You know, and that's kind of how I feel. And again, I think there are valid arguments and discussions to be had about this on both sides. Just to me, it feels like they just set everything backwards. But that's how I feel about it. And listen, that brings us to today's question of the day. And the question of the day is simply this. It's about this topic. And the topic is, should Scarlett Johansson have stepped down from this movie? Should Scarlett Johansson have stepped down from Rub and Tug? And you're going to have three options when you go to the survey to take the survey. Yes, it was the right move for her to step down. No, it was the wrong move for her to step down. And I've thrown in a third option there for what I know some of you are going to say, which I don't care. So that's going to be some option. Now, I'm going to go take a look. I know some of you have probably already started voting on this. So let me go over right now and take a peek and see where we're at. And right now, where we are at is this. Right now, 26% of you is saying it's the right move for her to step down. 51% of you are saying it was the wrong move for her to step down, and 21.9% of you are saying you don't care. So right now we got about 50 votes in there. So you guys got 24 hours, vote on this thing, let your voice be heard. I think there are valid arguments and discussion to be made on both sides of this. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Okay, with that out of the way, let's move on now to our third topic. And our third topic today comes to us from Eric Garner, and Eric Garner writes, "It's actually happening. They're finally officially making a Zombieland sequel with all the 4 original stars coming back and the original director. After so long and the failed TV show, why do you think it was able to get the green light now? Do you think the movie can be successful? I know the original film only made like $100 million worldwide. Can a sequel do better?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, guys. And by the way, I've noticed some of you guys in the comment section are asking, wait a minute, where do I vote? Look in the description of this video for the question of the day. At the very bottom of the video description, you'll find the link to the question of the day. Go click that link and go and cast your vote. Okay, so Zombieland. Zombieland is back, ladies and gentlemen, after years of talking about the possibility of trying to get another one off the ground, years of trying to get a TV show. Remember, they tried to get one going at Amazon and it failed and all that kind of stuff. Now, we've heard Woody Harrelson teasing for a while that they're going to try to get another one made, but they've been saying that for years. I had my doubts. But here we are. It's actually happening. The studios have confirmed it. And they've got Jesse Eisenberg back. They've got Woody Harrelson back. They got Abigail Breslin back. And most surprisingly, according to them, they've got Emma Stone back. Academy Award-winning actress Emma Stone is back as well. And I honestly thought, I mean, how do you get her back? Her schedule's going to be so busy. She's so in such high demand. And that first one barely broke $100 million worldwide. So the question is, why now? Like, why would they move forward with a Zombieland 2 now when they weren't able to get it together before, when nothing seemed to be lining up right, when the first one, quite frankly, didn't do all that well at the box office? Why now? And I think there are a couple of reasons why now. And I think there are a couple of reasons why this can be a success now, where maybe it wouldn't have been a success a few years later. Number one, let's say this. I actually think that the amount of time that has passed since the first Zombieland, the first one came out like 9 years ago, right? I think that the time gap here, normally you don't want to wait that long. I think the time gap has actually helped the situation. Because I think people have talked more and more about it. And I think now we're just getting long enough away from the first one that it seems like just yesterday Zombieland came out. But there's actually now, we're far enough away for it that we're starting to talk about Zombieland almost in a nostalgic way. So there's a little bit of that setting in. So I actually think a project like this, it feels like the amount of time that has passed may have actually helped it. The second thing that has helped it is this, is that while Emma Stone, people knew who she was in 2009. People certainly knew who Abigail Breslin was in 2009. Jesse Eisenberg, people knew him. Woody Harrelson, clearly. But, you know, Emma Stone's stock is now way higher than it was in 2009. She's a multiple Academy Award nominee. She's an Academy Award winner. She is one of the hottest stars in Hollywood. Abigail Breslin's stock has gone up. Jesse Eisenberg, you know, despite the fact that not a lot of people loved him as Lex Luthor, I mean, everybody talking about him as Lex Luthor. And Woody Harrelson, well, Woody's just always Woody, so there's that. But so I believe the stock of a lot of the stars of the film have now increased. That increases the likelihood of this being successful. And I think there's a third thing at play here. And I may be wrong about this. I think some of you may disagree, and you might be right. But here's what I think is a third reason why something like a Zombieland 2 can work now, and why they'd be moving ahead with it now. And that's this. I think the popularity and success of Walking Dead may have been a deterrent to the studios thinking they can do a Zombieland 2. It might have thought, well, people might look at us as we're just trying to piggyback on the success of Walking Dead. People are looking at us just being a ripoff of Walking Dead, even though we put the first one out in 2009, blah, blah. I mean, maybe there was that concern. But The Walking Dead's popularity has slid. And there are people today who are more critical of Walking Dead than ever before. I'm not necessarily one of them, but I'm just saying, you can tell just by reading online, people seem to be more critical now of Walking Dead. The numbers of Walking Dead have gone down, all that kind of stuff. That may, in the eyes of the producers, put them in a position for Zombieland 2 to say, you know what? They may be hungry for some new, fresh zombie stuff. Now that the Walking Dead popularity is waning, this might be a good time to strike. This might be a good time for us to take advantage of the situation and get some positive attention. So I actually think, while there may be a couple of deterrents to them waiting this long and doing a Zombieland 2 now, I believe there are a couple of key reasons why it's good. Number one, we're starting to get a little bit of a nostalgic factor. Number two, the stock of a lot of the cast has done nothing but go up since then. And number three, I actually think there might be a little bit more of a hunger, no pun intended, a little bit of a hunger for some zombie content now that Walking Dead's popularity may be waning. I think those three reasons are three of the reasons why they're looking at doing this now, and three reasons why something like a Zombieland 2 could be more successful than the first Zombieland. But then again, maybe I'm way off. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Zombieland 2 can be successful, at least more successful than $100 million worldwide? And do you think this is the right time to do it? Or do you think the window's closed and they should have done it 5 years ago? Jump into the comments section and let me know what you guys think. All right, let's move on to the next email of the day. Sorry, we still got a couple more to go. And this next email comes to us from Ty, who writes, "Hey, John, big fan from Fayetteville, Arkansas." I'm probably saying that name wrong. With the seemingly light tone of the Shazam movie, what are the odds that it's rated PG? Could help the box office because it would have the family appeal. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, so clearly, I mean, this is a great picture. Clearly, Shazam is going for a lighter tone. We've known that for a while. The Shazam project is going for a lighter tone than a lot of what the other DC movies have been up to this point. I'm somebody who's never felt like the tone of the DCU has ever been one of the problems. I just don't think that's one of the problems. I think the tone in the DCU has been perfectly fine, but that's just me. Other people disagree. So whatever. Clearly they're going for a lighter tone. Clearly they're going for more humor. Clearly with, a lot of pictures, there's going to be kids in it and all that kind of stuff. So they're going like that. So what are the odds that they go for a PG instead of a PG-13? I'm going to say not very likely. I think this will probably be a movie that ends up PG-13 for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't think being a PG as opposed to a PG-13 is going to get a lot of parents' attention. I really don't. It's different between PG-13 and R. Like, I don't want to take my kid to an R movie, but I think most parents don't really see a big difference between PG and PG-13. I think some do. But I think most parents don't see a big difference between PG and PG-13. They'll just look at the trailer and say, this looks like something I can take my kid to. And they will probably. So honestly, I don't see that going for a PG would necessarily make any kind of a difference. I really don't. I think parents, for the most part, there will be some exceptions, yes. But I think for the most part, parents are either going to take their kids to see Shazam or they're not. And I don't think that extra -13 on top of the PG is going to change their minds. I think all the parents are going to see is PG. Whatever comes after that, they're not going to care. PG, okay, it's not rated R. I can take my kids to go see it. So I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. The second reason I don't see them doing something like that is that this is in the DCEU. At some point, you're probably going to want to cross over this character with others, and you might as well have some consistency. Yes, you can have a lighter tone, but you don't want to go too radically different from the rest of the universe, or else it might feel a little bit jarring when you try to cross them over with each other. So, and I think you're going to have some action violence in this thing. Like, you got a superhero like Shazam, you got to have some action violence. And I think that kind of stuff would be enough. That it might be a little bit scary, sure, but I think that'll be enough to push it to a PG-13. So I could be dead wrong about this, but I don't think they're going to go for a straight PG. I think they probably will come in at PG-13 because it's just more consistent with their universe, even though it's going to be lighter in tone. And I don't see there being any big financial benefit to being a PG to a PG-13. I just don't see it. Maybe you guys disagree. Jump down to the comment section and let me know what you think. All right, final email of the day. And the final email today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, CJ Mann, who writes, "Could this be the year of Emily Blunt? Between A Quiet Place and Mary Poppins Returns, Emily could start and end 2018 with the most critically and publicly acclaimed movies of the year." And you know what? You're damn right. I think there have been people like me who've been talking about, is this going to be the year of Chris Pratt? Because he's got Avengers Infinity War, money, 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 money. He's going to have Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, $1.1 billion. Could it be the year of Josh Brolin? He's also got Infinity War. He's got Deadpool 2. He's got Sicario, Day of the Soldado. So there's that. So we're talking about that. You know who I haven't mentioned? Emily Blunt. And you know what? You're right. You're right. I think this is going to be the year of Emily Blunt. Now, look, it's all going to come down to and depend on how good is Mary Poppins. Now, the Disney reps I've spoken to are like chomping at the bit to start promoting this movie because they're saying it's turned out amazing. They're saying that the confidence level at Disney right now on Mary Poppins is through the roof. Like, way more than their confidence in Ant-Man and all this other kind of stuff. Right now, their confidence in Mary Poppins is through the roof. That's what I'm hearing. But who knows, right? Lots of times studios have been confident in a film and it didn't turn out to be all that good. But at least, you'd rather hear they're confident in it than they're not. So let's wait and see how good Mary Poppins is. But I'll tell you what, if Mary Poppins ends up being as good as the hype is saying, and that's a big if, and that's a big, hypothetical. But let's go with the hypothetical for just a moment. If Mary Poppins ends up being anywhere near as good as the hype seems to be suggesting it could be, and as the trailers kind of look it is, and we all know how good of a performer Emily Blunt is, then coming off of what I still contend is the best movie of the year so far, A Quiet Place, and then you end the year with a movie like Mary Poppins, and if Mary Poppins does the box office destruction like we're thinking it might, I think Mary Poppins is going to destroy at the box office. I really do. Then yeah, I think forget Chris Pratt, forget Josh Brolin. I think we're going to be talking about, once we get into the early months of 2019, I think we're going to be looking back at 2018 and going, 2018 was the year of Emily Blunt. Because, again, right now, best movie of the year in A Quiet Place. That could change with other movies coming out later this year. And then Mary Poppins, if it's as good, again, it's a hypothetical and it's a big if, but if it's that big, I think we'll be looking back. Now, if Mary Poppins comes out and it's mediocre, whatever, then we're back to talking about whether it was the year of Pratt or the year of Josh Brolin. But if, and it's a big if, Mary Poppins turns out the way we think it could, oh yeah, it's true. To channel my inner Kurt Angle, it's true. It's going to be Emily Blunt's year. It's true. It's damn true. It'll be Emily Blunt's year, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, that'll do for all the emailed in questions, the main topics. Thank you guys for emailing those questions into me. So let's get things moving now. I'm almost out of time, but let's extend the show a little bit. We've got a whole bunch of live questions that have come in, so let's jump over and start taking those live questions. All right, we're going to start off the live questions today with Rodrigo Ortiz, who writes, did you see on TMNZ that LeBron had dinner with Leonardo DiCaprio and Al Pacino? I don't know why, but I find that pretty cool. What do you think they were talking about? Oh, they were probably talking about basketball and whatever Leo's got coming up. And Al Pacino. Look, I mean, it was a no duh that LeBron was going to come to LA. Everybody knew LeBron wanted to get involved in the movie business, as he's got a production company now. He's going to start producing films. He wanted to come to LA, rub shoulders with these guys. Why not? So I didn't see the TMZ thing, my TMNNZ. I'm confusing it with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I did not see the TMZ report myself, but I heard that stuff was happening. So yeah, it is pretty cool. I gotta say, I would love to walk into a restaurant and then look at the table beside me and have Al Pacino, Leonardo DiCaprio, and LeBron James sitting there. That would be quite an evening out, I gotta say. All right, next one comes to us from Ben Hayusa, who writes, Happy Rusev Day, John. Thank you so much, Ben, and happy Rusev Day to everybody else out there. I got your email reply this morning, so I assume you've checked out them links I sent you. So what did you think, in your opinion? I'm going to be honest with you, Ben. I get hundreds of emails a day, and I respond to as many as I can, which obviously isn't a lot because I don't have that kind of time. I don't know which email we're talking about. I can't remember off the top of my head. Do me a favor, guys. If you ever want to write in a super chat, something like this, Ben, I got to apologize, but I just don't know the answer to this off the top of my head. Can you be a little bit more specific and put in what it is we're talking about so I cannot be hung out here to dry and try to which email were we talking about? Like I said, I get hundreds of emails a day. I apologize. I don't know which one we're talking about off the top of my head. So guys, please, when you're ready, if you're going to write in something like this, where you're referencing something else, at least put in something in the message that tells me what it is you're referencing so I know what it is we're talking about. My apologies, Ben, for that, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Jojo Ashton writes, finally watched Michael Mann's Heat. Wow. Yeah. Wow is right. Like Heat is like one of those, it's kind of like not as good as The Godfather, but Heat's like The Godfather, where it's one of those movies where it's like, wait a minute. You've never seen Heat? You are in for a treat. And then you go and watch Heat for the first time. And Heat's just one of those movies. Speaking of Al Pacino, it's just one of those movies so good. I'm glad you had a chance to watch it, Jojo. All right, next one. Ben Rayner writes, how's Schnepp? Any update? Okay, so there are things that it's not my place to communicate, and it's not my place to say. I know there is a lot of people online that are very concerned about John Schnepp, and might be feeling a little bit frustrated that nobody knows any details. And the fact of the matter is, It's not, my place or Robert Meyer Burnett's place or anybody's place to communicate specifically what's going on with Schnepp right now. So what I will say is I will echo what has been said by others, okay? The situation is not good. Clearly, this has been a distraction for everybody. I was supposed to I put up a couple of companion videos over the weekend, but I'm still like 75 questions behind. And I got a feeling after seeing how many live questions you guys are sending in, I'm going to be behind even more today. My apologies for that, but I have been distracted. So all I will say is this. The situation, because other people have said this, the situation is not good. The medical expenses for Schnepp are going to be astronomical. The types of numbers that would ruin anybody and their families. And there is a GoFundMe campaign right now to try to raise money for Schnepp. Unfortunately, this is a country that I'm in right now with all the amazing things about this country. This is a country where getting sick can destroy you financially and can destroy your family financially. There is a GoFundMe campaign for Schnepp right now and his medical expenses. I would encourage you, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook. I've put links to the GoFundMe page on both, particularly on Twitter. So you can follow me on Twitter. I would encourage everybody to go make a donation because, Holly, who is John's longtime partner and girlfriend, Holly has enough to deal with right now that she shouldn't be losing more sleep over, oh my God, how are we going to pay for all this? She has enough on her mind right now. And it would be great if people could kick in. So I want to encourage all of you, if John Schnepp has made an impact on you and you've enjoyed watching his stuff over the years, going back all the way to when I first brought him on to AMC Movie Talk to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. That was the first time I ever brought John Schnepp in front of you guys. I was looking for an expert to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. And a mutual friend of ours said, I know this guy who knows everything about Guardians of the Galaxy. And his name was John Schnepp. And John Schnepp and I connected, had him on the show. And he and I talked afterwards, said, we're pretty good we really like being on camera. Let's do this again. And we ended up working together for more than 5 years. If John has had any kind of an impact on you, I would encourage you to support Holly, and go contribute to that GoFundMe page. But again, we're in a situation where it's not our place to give any more details than that. So I hope y'all can understand. But thank you, from one John Schnepp fan to another John Schnepp fan, to all of you guys. Thank you for the well wishes, support. Please continue to send in support and well wishes to Holly Payne. She could really use the support right now, and that would be awesome. So thank you for asking. Appreciate it. I apologize I can't be more specific than that, but, it is what it is. Thank you. Dan Bondi writes, wanted to recommend Beirut starring John Hamm. It's terrific, and John Hamm is terrific in it. It's, not one of those top 10, top 15 movies of the year type of thing, but it's a solid little film. John Hamm is great. If you had any doubts about how good of an actor John Hamm is, well, first of all, just watch Baby Driver, and then watch Beirut. He's really great in it. Jonas, skipped one. Jonas Norden writes, will episode 9 be John Williams' last Star Wars? I have to believe it will be. I've not heard John Williams say that. I've not heard any official word from anybody saying that, but he's got to be getting close to retiring. And, the only reason he came out to even do episode 8 is because he loves the Rey character. He told this story at his concert. He said, I didn't want anybody else writing music for Rey. He's just completely enamored. He loves the Rey character so much. He was telling this story at the concert at the Hollywood Bowl that Ann and I was at. He said he just loves the Rey character so much. He had to agree to come back and do 8 because he didn't want anybody else writing music for Rey, which I thought was pretty fun for him to say. But I've got to believe, again, I'm not basing that on anything other than just wild speculation, but I have to believe that it'll probably be his last one. Jonas follows it up with thoughts on the film Inside Llewyn Davis. Well, speaking of Star Wars, it's a good movie. And it gave a lot of people. Oh, wait a second. Who else was in that? So aside from who's the girl with Oscar Isaac in it? Carey Mulligan. That's who it is. Carey Mulligan's also amazing in that. But yeah, it gave a lot of people their first look at Oscar Isaac before he did the Star Wars movie. I like it. It's a solid movie. It's a really good movie. I like it. Justin Luchak writes, you see Nathan Fillion as Nathan Drake in fan film clip? No, I didn't see it. I saw headlines for it, and I saw it in my social media feed, but I didn't have a chance to click on it and watch it. I can only imagine, because people have talked about Nathan Fillion as Nathan Drake for a long time. I mean, the window on that is closed. It's never going to happen, but people have talked about that for a long time, so I'm not surprised it got made. Benny95 writes, John, if you could pick one celebrity to sit down with at a bar for a beer, well, I don't drink beer, but whatever, to talk for hours on end, who would it be and why? Best wishes to Snep and your mom. Well, thank you so much for that, Benny. It would have to be one of the guys that I've never had a chance to sit down and meet yet, and that's Steven Spielberg. Because he's just got the best filmography ever. And I could talk to him about Close Encounters or Jaws or E.T. or Jurassic Park or Lincoln or whatever. I could just talk to him forever. So to me, it's the guy who is the greatest filmmaker of all time and one of the few people I've never actually had the chance to meet, which is Steven Spielberg. So yeah, for me, man, it would absolutely be Steven Spielberg. And again, thank you, Benny, for your thoughts to Schnepp and my mom. I appreciate that. Rami J. Royster writes, my local theater is playing Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D. Also, Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. That's awesome. Can't wait to see them both. Love the show, John. I mean, there are certain films I would love to see on the big screen again. To me, Creature from the Black Lagoon, classic. Not something you have to see on the big screen. Aliens. Man, if they played Aliens on the big screen close to me, I would go see it in a heartbeat, because you're not going to get many opportunities to see a movie like that on the big screen. It would be awesome, and I would take advantage of that in a heartbeat. So good on you, Romney, for taking advantage of that and going to see that. History Soup writes, I'm shallow, so I'm all for Widow with super hot ScarJo. Hey, don't feel bad, History Soup. A lot of people feel that way. You're a red-blooded male. You love the idea. I'm sure a lot of people are too. I mean, after last week's survey, I had a lot of people write to me. He goes, John, why would you not want to see Scarlett Johansson in tight black leather? Like, what's your problem, Campea? I get it. I totally do, so don't feel bad about that. Sid Vicious writes, how do movies like Black Swan catch fire during Oscar season and make 300 to 400 million? I could easily see it. King's Speech bombing like many weird indies. King's Speech? King's Speech made over $400 million. I don't know what you're talking about. King's Speech bombing? No, King's Speech made over $400 million. King's Speech, if I remember correctly, made more than Black Swan. I think Black Swan made in the $300 million range, which was great for a movie like that. And King's Speech, I think, made like 400 something million. Let me just bring that up for a second here. King's Speech. King's Speech made $414 million worldwide. Yeah, so King's Speech did great. I mean, that's part of the reason why studios like Oscar Buzz. Because Oscar Buzz, it's not an automatic. It does not automatically mean a film will do better financially. But, I mean, a film like King's Speech isn't under normal circumstances going to make 400 plus million. But you get that Oscar buzz, it can increase attention. You get a movie like Black Swan, increase Oscar buzz, gets more attention, all that kind of stuff. So that can happen. It can happen. It's not automatic, does not happen every time. There are certainly lots of examples of that. But the fact of the matter is there are many examples of where it does happen and it does propel those films and does really well for them. So that's one of the reasons why the studios, like, getting those Oscar nominations are important to them. Jay Bling writes, and guys, I've gone way over time today, so I'm going to have to make sure I add a whole bunch more of these questions to our companion video list, and I will work very hard today, guys, cranking out some companion videos to get ready to release over the next 24 to 48 hours. I will get caught up, I promise you. Thank you for your patience. I hope you understand. With my mom in the some personal things in my personal life, things with Schnepp, all that kind of stuff. It's been very distracting, but we will get caught up, I promise. So, final question of the day comes to us from Jay Bling, who writes, thought Skyscraper was just okay, and that's becoming my problem with The Rock. I get wanting to make movies that make money, but I wish he'd seen it not just generic tap water movies that make money. But this is the problem, Jay. First of all, I agree with you. Skyscraper is just okay. At least it's not crap, but it's okay. And I agree with your assessment on that. It's okay. Every filmmaker thinks their movie's going to be great. I was like, oh, why didn't The Rock do a better movie? Well, he looked at the script. A lot of people looked at the script and thought, this looks like it could be great. This looks like it could be like the new Die Hard. This looks like it could be whatever. And sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes it doesn't. I got to tell you this. Theoretically, forget that we saw Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Theoretically, Skyscraper sounds better than Jumanji does. It does. Theoretically, Skyscraper sounds way better than Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle does. But Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle worked out and executed and clicked and the magic happened and it turned out to be a much, much better movie. But no filmmaker, no actor, no whatever sits down and goes, I just want to make a mediocre film. Nobody thinks that. Everybody makes a movie and they start dreaming out their Academy Award acceptance speech. Right? And Jumanji was massive and really good. Jumanji: Welcome, and I had my doubts about it. It was great. Rampage turned out being far more entertaining than it had any business being. And Skyscraper is flat. It's flat. It's not bad. It's not great. If it wasn't for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, it probably would have been bad. He brings so much natural charisma and energy to it. He's what makes it a pretty good movie, an okay movie. Whereas it would have been kind of bad without it. But, I mean, this whole notion of, oh, well, why doesn't that director just do good movies? Or why doesn't that actor just be in good movies? Why do they pick to be in bad movies? Nobody does it. Everybody looks at a script. It comes across a certain way. And like I said, Skyscraper on paper looks way better than Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. So, hey, they went in. He did the best he could. The directors did the best they could. And you know, the results are the results. You don't hit it out of the park every time. Not everybody is a Scorsese, you know, not everybody does. It's sometimes it hits, sometimes it misses. So it's not like, oh, it's just, why did The Rock do that? Well, because it looked good on paper. And let's be honest too, as much of a big of a fan as I am of The Rock, and I'm a huge fan of The Rock. Hold on one second. I have somebody trying to call me. I actually have Christian Harloff calling me right now. So he's probably thought I would have been done my show by now, because usually I'm done my show by now. So I'm just texting him saying, hey, just give me 5 minutes. I'm almost done. But let's be honest too. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is one of the best movie stars in the world, but he's not one of the best actors in the world. You know, we were just talking about King's Speech. You can't put Dwayne Johnson in King's Speech. You know, there are movies out there like that are Oscar level. You can't put Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's turned from just pure shtick to a legitimate serviceable actor. He's grown so much as an actor to complement that huge natural charisma he has. But, you know, he's not Colin Firth. You know, he's not Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's not Edward Norton. He's not like one of the world's best actors. So he has a certain window of movies that he can do, and some of them will be better than others. And that's just the way it is. And all you can do is do the best you can, right, Jay? So anyway, that's just the way I see that. Okay, guys, that will do it for me. Once again, there are a bunch of other live questions that comes in. Don't you worry, guys. I've got them all right here. All of them are going to get answered on companion videos coming up over the next 48 hours. I'm going to do a bunch of them and get all these cleared up and get through as many as these can. I will get all of them addressed. I absolutely promise you. Thank you for your patience and understanding as I get through all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, guys, don't forget, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Become one of the 130,000 people to subscribe to this channel. You should be one of them as well. That'll do it for me, guys. I'll be back a little bit later today with Open Mic. Thanks for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.